I fear my portfolio's sinking. You're too scared to check, it's low. I'm stir crazy, I can't see my father, and I sanitize only with soap. Now the wheels of my cart have been turning since this all started out in Wuhan. I was underprepared and irrationally scared, so I stocked up on TV and cans.
How's that for a little bit of an intro? Hey kids, this is Ms. Becky here. We're going to be working on some IXL Precalculus M8 inverse trig functions, and I figured we're probably a little bit crazy from being quarantined. That's just a little bit of fun there, so maybe you can hear the rest of that some other time. Pretty good. It was off of Disney's Gaston, Beauty and the Beast. So anyway, you guys probably know more than I do. Okay, now this should not be too difficult. What we are doing this week is, whereas before in the last lesson, we were given an angle. Let's see. Let's do red. Like say they gave us an angle, such as 30 degrees, then we had to find what that was in radians, and then we also had to find the coordinates of that angle. Now it's the inverse. So what we're going to be looking for when you see a problem like this, they're asking you the tangent of some angle theta equals the square root of 3 over 3. And it's going to be your job to find it. Now, this lesson you're going to be using your calculator. So I'm going to try to use this here for on the video. So let me try to bring it up. Let me see here. I'm going to bring up the wrong one. Okay, so here's your calculator. Hopefully y'all can see that. Let me clear that out. I was testing it to make sure it works. Now, let's see. First thing you want to do is, let me show it to you like this. This is how you would actually be setting it up. So, sorry about that. You'd be setting it up like this to, wait, let me do it like this. Let's see. Let's try it let me give you an example like this. All right. So if you have an equation like this, you always want to do the inverse to undo what is being done. So you guys know that the inverse of squaring something is taking the square root, right? So you're going to do that on both sides. So the square root of x squared is x, square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. That's just a little example. So, oops. We're going to do the same thing since this is an equation. Oh, please don't lag. All right. Now, since this is an equation, what you're going to be doing, we don't need to write this out, but I'm just going to show you. On this side, to undo the tangent, you do the inverse of tangent. And you're actually going to do that on this side too. Oh, we are lagging. Ugh. So you're going to do tangent inverse. And that's what I'm fixing to show you how to do. Okay. So you're going to pull out your handy dandy calculator like this one. And okay, it's turned on. You're going to hit second. Then you're going to go over here to tangent. And you notice that that's the inverse. So think of it like this. What you're saying is the angle whose tangent is this. What is the angle? So now to get in your calculator correctly, you need to remember that this is a fraction. So we're going to, this parenthesis here, the calculator puts in, because you're doing a trig ratio. But we need, pretty sure we need another one because it's a fraction. So it's going to look like this. We're going to do second. We're going to pull up square root 3. Now you got to go over to get out of that square root. Then I'm going to do divided by 3. Close that parenthesis, but you also have to close the parenthesis for the trig ratio, and then hit enter. And lo and behold, it tells you that the answer is 30. So an angle, the tangent of a 30-degree angle is the square root of 3 over 3. Okay, now say sometimes you'll get a different answer in here and it's like way off, and you're checking your answers and it's like way off, and that's because of the mode. Depends on what they ask you for. They wanted this answer in terms of degrees. So for the notes, I've highlighted it. They want these answers in degrees. So you're going to make sure that your calculator is in the degree mode. Okay. All right. Let me clear that out. The cosine. So actually what I'm going to have you do is pause the video, scratch your head like that guy is, and see if you can figure out cosine of this one for number 2 and also the sine for this one in number 3 using your calculator. And so those shouldn't be too hard because they're not the reciprocal functions. And now I'll be right back and we'll see if we get it right. Okay, hopefully you got that. If you did, you can go ahead and fast forward to the next section. If you didn't, let's just walk through how to do that on the calculator. Okay, so it's second cosine, because on top of that one, you'll see the cosine with that -1, which means inverse. And it's a fraction, so we're going to use another, oops, I'm not going to use that. Why did it do that? Oh, I must have hit alpha. Hang on. Oh, no. Let's clear. Okay. Second cosine. It's a fraction. I'm hitting the wrong one. This isn't easy. Okay. Square root 3. Move over. Divided by 2. Close both parentheses. Yes, we got 30. Okay, so hopefully you followed that. And I'll do the next one. Same thing. Second sine, the inverse of sine. It's a fraction, so I haven't tried this. You can mess around with it. You might not need that second parenthesis, but I'm going to do it. Square root of 2. Make sure you move over, get out of that square root, or you're going to have trouble. Divided by 2. Close both of them. Bam-o, whammo, 45 degrees. Woot, woot. Alrighty, on to the next one. Now, be really careful in IXL because this one is, this is why I've highlighted these. This is in radians, and they want the answer in rationalized form. So if you're not paying attention to this, your points are going to get knocked down, and you're going to be angry. And remember that rationalized form, or, well, means that you could have some square roots in there. But radians, if you'll remember, are in terms of pi. So let's bring up our handy-dandy calculator. So this is asking us for the sine of what angle has a sine of 1/2. So we want to find the degree. So we'll go in here and we'll do the inverse of sine. And we'll put in, you can type in 1/2 or you can put in 0.5. That's not 0.5. Ugh. Why did it do that? 0.5. Okay. Put that in there, and that gives me 30 degrees. Okay, so, but IXL does not want this in 30 degrees. So I know that's 30 degrees. Now, if you guys remember, you can change this into radians. If you go 30 degrees times pi over 180. Remember that? Okay. Then, where's my thingy? Okay. This cancels out. And 30 goes into 186 times. So what we're left with is pi over 6. That's the radians. And it's just much more specific, well, if you're dealing with decimals. Or if you've got the little handy dandy unit circle that I've given you guys, all you have to do is look up, here's 30 degrees. What is that as radians? So it's pi over 6. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next one. This is also in radians. Now, this is the secant of some angle, which is going to be the square root of 2. So the secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to write down here a second. Let me write. Come on. All right. So the way we're going to get this into the calculator is because secant is the reciprocal of cosine here. We're going to type in the inverse of cosine. And then it's going to be a big fraction because secant can be put into the calculator as the reciprocal of cosine. So what we have here is a square root of 2. So the reciprocal of that is going to be that you put that square root of 2 in the denominator and put that underneath 1, like this. Okay? So that should give it to us. So it's just these inverse ones that are going to be a little different. Now, let's see if we get that in there. So the second of cosine, and it's going to be a fraction. I'm just going to do that anyway. 1 divided by square root of 2. Then you got to move out of there. It causes problems. Okay, we got 45 degrees. So that is correct. Equals 45 degrees. But we don't want to know what that is as degrees. We want to know what it is in radians. And you can either do the conversion thing real quick, or you can just pull out your unit circle and see, okay, 45 degrees as radians is going to be pi over 4. All right. So why don't you see if you guys can do this next one. Hang on. Pause the video. Pause the video and see if you can try this next one. Just remember that the cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So you're going to do what I did here. You're going to use the inverse of tangent, and you've got to write whatever number is given to you as the reciprocal. Okay, I'll be right back. Alrighty. Hopefully you got 45 degrees, which you knew from this one is pi over 4. So actually, if you keep these notes out while you're doing IXL, you can just kind of get used to seeing, okay, 30 degrees is pi over 6, 45 degrees are going to be pi over 4. Same thing. So you can just kind of use these or keep your unit circle out. What I typed into the calculator was the inverse of tangent, and the reciprocal of 1 is 1 over 1. If you want to put it in like that, got 45 degrees, and then just put it into radians. Okay, why don't you pause the video on this one, and in honor of Gaston, our Gaston song, here's Gaston. I think that's his thinking face. He probably doesn't know how to use a TI calculator. Anywho's on number 7. Okay, that one, they want it in radians. Number 8, they want it in radians. Number 9, they want it in degrees. Hang on. Okay, I thought I goofed something, but I didn't this time. So anyway, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can work these out on your own, and then come on back. We'll see what we get. Alrighty then. For this one, it was a cotangent, so you could have put it in, because remember, these reciprocal trig functions need to be written whatever's in here as in the denominator. But whatever 1 is the same thing as 1, so it all worked out. And we knew that 45 degrees is pi over 4. Now on this one, it's the same deal. It's the secant, so it needs to be, the secant is the reciprocal, or inverse, I'm sorry, of cosine. So I typed in the cosine inverse. And on this one, it looks like I was able to get away with the 1 parenthesis here. Okay, now you don't want to make a mistake with this one and type it in your calculator like this. Like, you wouldn't have just flipped it like that. That's not what you need to do. That's the reciprocal. What you're looking to do is put that whole thing in the denominator, so it becomes pretty nasty fraction, or really a complex fraction. So that whole thing is under 1. So if you're careful typing it in, so it looks like I did a parenthesis 1, and then I did another parenthesis. I put all this in parentheses because this calculator needs to see that fractions are held together by parentheses. So practice with that. And so you should have gotten 30 degrees, which they wanted it in radians, so I had to do pi over 6. Now on this next one, they wanted it in degrees, not into radians. And this is how I typed that one in there. Like that. And then I got this long decimal. They wanted it rounded to the nearest hundredth, which that 9 in the thousandths place would have shot that up to a 9. So hopefully you did okay with that one. And moving right along, almost done here. Only 2 left. Almost done. Now again, you got to pay really good attention to what it is that IXL wants. This one, they want it as a radian, but they want it in decimal form. So they don't want any pi, nothing. Okay? All right, so first off, we know that it's the cosecant, so it's reciprocal. It is the reciprocal of sine. So it's going to be this one here. Okay, so what we're going to be typing in our calculator, it's going to be the inverse of sine. And then easy number to get in there, it's just a 1. Okay, now here's a trick. Okay, notice this here. It says that the angle, or theta, has to be between a negative half of a pi or positive half of a pi. That's what they want your answer to be. So half of a pi is right here. But if you were to go to negative half of a pi, zoop, you'd be right here in terms of negative half of a pi. So theta has to be somewhere in here, okay? So we will bring up our calculator. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Just pay attention. First thing you want to do, because we want the radian, but we want it in terms of a decimal. So you've got to go to your mode, and you can notice that we've been, most of the time when you're dealing with your calculator, you're going to want it in degree mode. So you're going to go down, highlight radian, press enter. If you don't press enter, that can mess you up too. Do second mode to quit out of there. Now you type, let's see, second sine 1, easy peasy, close that. And see this decimal that it gives us, and they want it rounded to the nearest hundredth there. So it's going to be 1.57. So 1.57. That's the rounded answer there. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and try number 11? I had to get my Gaston face. He looks really stressed out with all of this, but let's see if we can do it. I'll be right back. All right. Hopefully this is what you got because you were in radians. That's not too bad. But anyway, hopefully that's what you got. If not, then you typed something in wrong. And that's all I got to say about that. Now, be sure that you put your calculator back into degree mode because it's gonna mess you up later. If you're ever calculating something and it's coming out to some crazy number and you know that you've done it right, it's always check your mode there. But that's all there is for this section. And here's more of Gaston.
As you see, I've got Lysol to spare. Not a bit of him's feverish or coughing. That's right. And every last inch of the shelving is bare. Who has brains like Gaston? Remove stains like Gaston? Who can make inside trades for great games like Gaston? Who stabs people just cause they're self-isolating? Oh, what a guy.
Okay, I guess that's it. Bye now.